nation ever conceived. I'm Steve Gruber, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and pushing back on the blizzard of lies from the left, the right, and the uniparty too. Time for the fearless pursuit of truth. We're here to give it to you, so help me God. This is the Steve Gruber Show. 3 big things you need to know right now to start your day. Number one of our Supreme Court justices makes an outrageous claim in a dissent, but the big problem is her claim is mathematically impossible and therefore completely absurd. Number two, the beaches of America are often tainted to the point that you won't want to swim there. I'll tell you why that is coming up. And number three, the mystery of who brought the coke to the White House continues to blow around. More questions now than answers. You see, we've learned that the coke was not at all where they've been telling us it was. In fact, the illegal street drug making the White House seem more like Studio 54 was found in an area that is not easily accessible at all. It was in a cubby hole. It was in a cubby. In fact, only a few people could find their way to where it was discovered by the Secret Service because it's down where the Situation Room is. Let me tell you something. This is becoming quite a situation for the scandal-plagued Biden administration. On this Free-for-All Friday, let's get started right there. First, let's review where it began. This is the hazmat team at the White House a few days ago confirming it had just found cocaine. Listen.
To repeat, I didn't copy your results on the Gemini.
Gemini's results are new match found with a red bar, new match found in the library. We'll go ahead and bag. Come on up. Correct the record has that we have a result on the Gemini. We have a yellow bar stating cocaine, hydrochloride, gas number 53-21-4.
Can you imagine finding cocaine? Can you imagine this under any other White House? This isn't Willie Nelson smoking a joint on top of the White House. This is cocaine. Near the Situation Room, near the Oval Office. And that preliminary positive test was later confirmed at another lab, proving someone had the nerve to carry coke into the guts of the White House. That's what happened. We now know the blow came into a much more secure area, as I've been telling you, a place that ordinary people, because they said it could have been a tourist. No, it couldn't. Ordinary people have no access to this part of the building, meaning it appears a family member or a higher-ranking administration official would have to be the person that brought it in. Listen to this.
What we have learned is that there are, in fact, 2 West Wing entrances. You know that, I know that, but for the benefit of our audience. And now the investigation has progressed, and so they're saying the West Executive entrance, which, as you noted, is closer to the Situation Room and closer to the Navy mess, where there's the facilities for food and so forth. It is also next to West Executive Drive. That's where, for example, the vice president's vehicle is parked.
That's where it was. The really weird thing so far is the almost total news blackout on the subject. Karine won't say a thing. And D.C. reporters are the ones that figured out where the coke was actually found. But the media is also still playing wingman for the Biden clown show. No let up in that. The media now pushing the idea that we'll never know who brought the blow to the West Wing. That's the narrative. Listen.
Yeah, Ron Kelly O'Donnell reports that it's possible that we might not even get to learn who actually brought this small baggie is. So I'm sure that's a sigh of relief to whoever sort of made the boneheaded move of bringing a bag of cocaine to the White House. But because this was in a, not an area that, is highly trafficked, but wasn't necessarily covered by cameras all that well, it's an area that a decent amount of people had access to. It just makes that investigation a little bit difficult. So, this could all end without, necessarily anyone being named as the person who was responsible for bringing that bag of cocaine to the White House.
How convenient is that? I mean, this story has been the big line on social media and the news for a couple of days. And the speculation is running wild about whose it is. About the only thing coming from the West Wing is that Joe and Hunter were not there over the weekend, as if that's proof of anything. Let's be honest, President Trump claims the cocaine in the White House belonged to Joe or Hunter. And nobody will even deny that. Nobody will even stop and say, well, that's ludicrous. That's totally untrue. You'd think they'd say at least that. They won't. Listen.
One more. Former President Trump has made some pretty wild posts recently on social media. One of them was that the cocaine found in the White House had belonged to either the president or his son. Are you willing to say that that's not the case, that they don't belong to them?
I don't have a response to that because we have to be careful about the Hatch Act. What I will say is that I have noticed there does seem to be some increasing frustration coming from that corner in general, and I think it is probably rooted in the contrast between their substantive policy records.
How desperate are they? They're using the Hatch Act. Oh, I can't answer that. Might violate the Hatch. Answering a question that you've just been accused by the former president of the United States that your current boss, the president, and his son, a well-known addict, might have some connection to a bag of cocaine found inside the White House. The Hatch Act has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. This is a coward's way, and it tends to lead me to believe there's more to this than just some staffer or some underling having coke in the White House. They're directly trying to hide this, and I believe they do know who brought it in. For now, that's all we know, except that we know this. Another cover-up is in full swing. I believe the Secret Service knows exactly, like I said, who it belongs to, when it was put in that cubby near one of the most sensitive rooms in all of American government. I mean, who brings lines to the Situation Room? Did they get jacked up so they can go watch the live video feeds? I also think the Secret Service and others are trying to bury what they have learned. It is not being written down. It is not being put in emails. It is not being spoken out loud. It is being buried as best as possible. Meanwhile, the other big story of the week, the 155-page decision handed down by a federal judge accusing the Biden team before and after the election, the DNC and others of colluding directly with giant social media companies to censor the comments from conservative voices in direct violation of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. That's also going on. Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe says using the Intel Committee to attack political opponents with social media is well-documented abuse, and the judge stopping it was absolutely right. Listen.
As the Director of National Intelligence, as you talked about, one of the things that I did was on a daily basis prepare the President's daily brief. That's the collection and aggregation of our most sensitive intelligence to brief the President on national security concerns. One of the tools that we use there was Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
I was going to bring that up.
That's the same tool that was abused to spy on the Trump campaign. And so now, when 702 comes up for renewal at the end of this year, you have Republicans saying, we can't renew that in its current form because it's been abused for political reasons. And so the abuses, these Orwellian abuses that I think the judge correctly characterized, have really placed our national security at risk by these officials putting political objectives above America's national security posture. Is just incredibly dangerous.
Incredibly dangerous. John Ratcliffe is exactly right. It is incredibly dangerous. It's reckless. And it's unconstitutional. That's the key. It's unconstitutional. But, you know, a whole host of these people take the oath of office. They've never read the Constitution. And that's true across this country. I think that should change. I think there should be a constitutional requirement that you understand and are proficient in understanding the Constitution before you raise your right hand and say, I swear I will defend it. Defend what? Know what you're defending. More on that after the break. It's the Steve Gruber Show.